In today's conversation, I'm very excited to introduce you to my now colleague, Mr. Randy Barnes, Director of Sales and Product Engineering at InvestorCOM. Randy brings a wealth of industry experience. He's a veteran in digitizing the advisor's desktop solutions across the wealth industry. And in today's conversation, you'll hear about Randy's background, the intersection between compliance, technology, and the wealth management industry, and also what he would do if he had a magic wand. All right, Randy, as I said in your initial bio, you are a true veteran of the wealth technology industry. You've worn multiple hats. I'm curious what interested you about this intersection that InvestorCOM lives and breathes in, which is the intersection between regulation, technology, and financial advice.
Yeah, Parham, I've always been involved in helping the operations side and the advisors to make them as efficient as we possibly could. And historically, the regulatory compliance side of those firms it's something that's always interested me, but it was never really a huge focus for us. We were really more focused on the revenue producers, the advisors, and making sure that their jobs were as efficient as possible. Now coming here, I think we can bring some best practices around automation, software development, and apply them while also giving me the opportunity to learn more about this part of the business. So that's very exciting for me. I also think this space affords us an opportunity to be a little bit more focused than I have been in the past. Other areas we tend to succumb to a little bit of scope creep or product creep where we try to be jack of all trades and get too much done. I think we've got an incredible chance here to focus on the regulatory compliance space and make sure that we provide the highest value products that we can.
Amen. And you know what? There's a piece of this that you said that I want to double click on as an aside, which is, from a financial practice or wealth management practice perspective, once those compliance elements or the regulatory compliance elements have been covered off, which really underpin investor protection, then to your point, the business can grow, and the business around working with clients and acting in their best interest, and really that mutual partnership between advisor and client can definitely grow. I really like what you said. Now, if we could kind of double click or zoom in on technology specifically, or what technology can add, more generally, what role do you believe technology plays in helping firms and advisors fulfill their regulatory requirements?
It's huge. We've heard a lot of clients that are taking more manual, forms-based approaches, and that's kind of out of necessity. But I really think that technology can play a couple of different roles. Most obviously is that, they can drive added value beyond just satisfying the basic requirements. Normally you're going to see efficiency gains, more automation, less manual touches, and therefore less of an impact to your productivity if you can introduce some level of technology. And that translates across both the front office and the back office, right? But the other thing that technology can do, if you have the right provider, is it'll give you that advocate, that firm that can help provide guidance, best practices, thought leadership, as well as the development support of the technical solution. So I really encourage firms to find that technology partner, not just a vendor, right? That could be somebody internally, it could be external, but just find that thing that you can grab onto that's going to really add that value, that service-oriented partnership type of a value.
I love what you're saying, and it is truly a partnership. I'll give you some data points that you just touched on. In a recent poll that we conducted, 70% of firms out of 100 indicated that they are currently using a manual practice or a manual process to meet the Department of Labor's PTE 2020-02 requirements. In the same poll, we asked if you believe technology will advance the advisor's adoption and compliant practices across that sales practice. And that was a 90% response rate or favorable rate. So, it kind of goes hand in hand. And I think there is truly synergies between firms within that wealth management capacity to sort of adopt technology holistically. Yeah. Now, sort of the reverse or the manual piece is a component that comes back in our purview, Randy, in our professional capacities. Quite often, a lot of firms kind of potentially using spreadsheets, PDFs, and whatnot. And I think you're starting to see a flavor of it, and you've probably seen it most of your career. If Randy Barnes had that magic wand, what are the top things he would do with that to transform our industry?
That's a great question, and I think it's one that we get asked all the time. I've, as you've said in the intro, I've been around quite a while. I joked with a couple of colleagues earlier this week that we still have paper checks in this industry, right? So that's the kind of concept. I'd love to see a way for us to somehow incentivize the various players across the industry to just adopt more automation, more digital, less paper. I know a bit of the resistance is around the client base. At least it was historically. Like, clients just don't necessarily adopt. Maybe they don't have email, they don't adopt digital. But I think we're seeing kind of the tail end of that, and the timing might be right here to try to do something. We still have so much of our industry that is dealing with paper forms and faxing things from one firm to another to get an account open, manual dual entry. I mean, it's crazy. And the amount of errors that leads to, which errors leads to cost. I mean, we've all heard the stats on how much it costs to fix an error after you've already done it. So there's just a lot of ways that we can improve on that. And if we can maybe find ways to incentivize firms to invest in that automation, I think it'd go a huge distance for this industry. And quite honestly, not to necessarily focus on the ESG or the going green card, but it wouldn't hurt the environment either to be able to say we're taking the reliance of paper out of the wealth management industry.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I like sprinkling data points on this. We did a little bit of a back of a napkin calculation. We said, look, Reg BI says reasonably available alternatives. You now take, if somebody were to make a few recommendations, compare a few securities, just consider them, a few alternative securities that may be comparable, and then try to document, analyze cost, risk, and return data elements. On average, a financial professional could be analyzing up to 1 million data points, right? Now you try to do that with the old-fashioned way, paper and pen, and sort of physically. And ESG aside, there's a huge opportunity to really adopt technology holistically and bring that layer of consistency within the financial professional's practice. Randy, I love these bite-sized commentaries. Hopefully we can have you back on our podcast here. Thank you very much for your time, and it's always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for taking the time to hear Randy and I banter about the regulatory compliance industry. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel and other channels through our digital platform.